Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Tobagonians to return to the polls as THA Amended Bill passes. This story takes the lead in our 1062nd edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 5th March 2021. Details after this break.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the food fair from anywhere in the world and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now make it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
Welcome back. The bill meant to end the deadlock in the THA was passed by the Senate on Tuesday night, clearing the way for fresh elections in Tobago once it is proclaimed by the president. While 8 independent senators voted against the bill, 1 independent senator supported the amendment. TV6's Joel Brown reports.
When Independent Senator Paul Richards began his contribution to the Senate's debate of the Tobago House of Assembly Amendment Bill just after 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, he expressed concerns about the legislation similar to those raised by other independent senators.
Even if this bill passes and Tobago goes back to the polls with 15 electoral districts, there are no guarantees. Absolutely none. And many have spoken about the many permutations that can evolve. 771, 663.
During the January 25th THA elections, the PNM won 6 and the PDP won 6 of the 12 seats in the Assembly, which led to a stalemate on the confirmation of a new Chief Secretary. Opposition Senator Anna Roberts earlier dismissed any notion that the deadlock in Tobago should be solved in Trinidad.
We are repeating history today. I beg of senators here, Independent and PNM, let us stop this disrespect to Tobago. Let us stop it today. We cannot continue this way.
The government said the bill is meant to allow for fresh elections in Tobago with 15 instead of 12 seats in the Assembly. As Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi wound up the debate in the Senate, he made reference to the Elections and Boundaries Commission Local Government and Tobago House of Assembly Act.
This law says that the president may by order amend the number of electoral districts. By order, that's Section 5 of this act. It does not refer to Section 70, Section 71, Section 72 of the EBC law in the Constitution. This act says it can be done.
Senator Richards had questioned whether the THA bill is basically meant to find out who will gain control of the Assembly.
Or is it really another political charade, a theatrical performance that may end up with the same outcome in 5 years or in 10 years? A legislative cobble sweat, basically, because it's going to be short-lived and have very short-term effects, superficial. But if we really look at it, Tobago has the potential to be an equal partner, but we've never treated it like that. So I asked the question, are we really even interested?
In the Senate, if all of the 9 independent senators and 6 opposition senators voted against the bill, it would have resulted in a 15-15 tie, and the Senate president would have had to cast a deciding vote.
Mr. Richards? Mr. Vera?
No.
Dr. Dial Singh?
No.
Ms. Diunarang?
No.
Ms. C. Prasad?
No.
Mr. Timau?
No.
Mrs. Thompson-Aye?
No.
Ms. Dr. Dylan Remy?
No.
Mr. Welch?
No.
Senator Richards' vote was added to that of the 15 government senators, which meant it passed with 16 votes. Independent senators are neither supposed to caucus or vote along political lines. TV6 News contacted Senator Richards via telephone on Wednesday.
Finally, the issue of Tobago's autonomy is on the front burner and can no longer be shoved under the mat or to the side or delayed. It is now a priority issue in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Senator Richards offered no further comment. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, meantime, is hopeful after meeting with all 12 assemblymen in Tobago on Wednesday that they would be able to resolve the 6-6 deadlock in the Tobago House of Assembly. Dr. Rowley sought to debunk any notion that he should have stepped in to solve the impasse in quick order. He spoke to members of the media at the Magdalena Grand. Elizabeth Williams of TV6 News was there and has this report.
Had I come here before, you and them would have been the same people who would have been saying to me, get out of our affairs, get out of our business. This is not a matter for the Prime Minister. We are here setting in place the assembly which we were elected into, and there's no role there for you. Because if anybody says to me now, get out of Tobago's business, I could reply by saying, the business of failure in Tobago to put in place a House of Assembly is a business of the office of Prime Minister.
Dr. Rowley said after a month and there was no solution in the deadlock, he decided it was time to intervene. He said the governance of Tobago must be rightly placed.
I came here today as leader of Trinidad and Tobago. And according to my oath of office, I am required to ensure that throughout Trinidad and Tobago there's good order and there's governance in place.
He said having the previous THA in place for so long, even though it is lawful according to the THA Act 40 of 1996, is not the best option.
But as leader of the country, that is not what I would allow to continue. And that is why I have led my team in the Parliament to amend the law. If there are people who have issues with that, they have expressed their views in the Parliament and they were in the minority because the majority would have passed the law. And of course, if they are sufficiently aggrieved and so, they may go to the court and challenge what the government has done. And some people are even advocating that the court may tell the Parliament what the Parliament could do.
Dr. Rowley said the Tobago Autonomy Bill remains paramount and it is up to the 12 assemblymen to move towards the proper functioning of the THA.
It is better for them to fight over the completion of the Joint Select Committee and have its work come to the Parliament. And we have one election then, because the work of that Joint Select Committee, once it comes to the Parliament, will carry with it the amendment of certain laws, including the Constitution, and would trigger itself an election.
And with respect to the passage of the THA Amendment Bill in the Senate on Tuesday night,
the bill, as passed, opens a door which we can go through, or we may not go through that door. But it's a tool that has now become available as of last night. It has a proclamation clause, and that law doesn't come into effect until it is proclaimed. And if, for example, based on what I just said about the direction that the THA elected members representing Tobagonians, where they want to go, if for any reason that fails to deliver, then of course what we have done last night and what exists is always going to be available.
Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
The opposition St. Lucia Labour Party has given its commitment to establishing a cannabis sector in St. Lucia if elected to office at the 2021 polls. Opposition leader Philip J. Pear made the case on cannabis at a press conference on Tuesday.
The main opposition, St. Lucia Labour Party, has echoed calls for the government to look to the cannabis industry in the bid to diversify the economy. Critics argue that the pandemic and the climate emergency have both underscored the need for the island to wean itself off the sole dependence on tourism. The tourism sector continues to suffer as countries impose lockdowns and travel restrictions to curb COVID-19 cases and new strains of the virus. Pierre says some consideration should be given to the medicinal benefits from marijuana.
I want to raise today the question of diversifying our economy so that St. Lucia is not totally dependent on tourism, as the COVID-19 experience has demonstrated. I have in previous national addresses from as far back as 2 years ago alluded to the economic opportunities in the area of economic activity like the medicinal and recreational cannabis industry.
Pierre says an SLP government would first start by promoting an informed understanding of marijuana use.
I want to reiterate today that the St. Lucia Labour Party is fully committed to establishing this industry, and a future St. Lucia Labour Party government will embark on a robust education policy program, that in the first instance will lead to the decriminalization of marijuana with a view to legalizing it, and also to make full use of the economic benefits that can be derived from the production of cannabis.
The current UWP government is working to establish a legal framework to regulate the marijuana sector. Last week, Commerce Minister Bradley Felix explained that while he can advance the agenda and public policy, the tedious work of fashioning the laws will be left to the legal drafters and the debate on statute deliberated by legislators. National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis, who has supported cannabis law reform, made it clear that such a fundamental change cannot be achieved through executive action or altering previous provisions of an existing act. The Commerce Minister, in a recent interview with the press, also indicated that an update on the cannabis law reform process would be made during the presentation of the 2021-2022 estimates of expenditure. Joachim de Plessis, HTS News Force.
Over in Guyana, Opposition Member of Parliament David Patterson told the National Assembly on Tuesday that the Prime Minister Mark Phillips was being untruthful when he told the House that the Keto electrification program was abandoned 2 years ago. HGP's Wendell Badri reports.
Has the government through the Prime Minister's office disbanded this the provision of supplying electricity to Paramakatoy?
That was the Honourable Member David Patterson, who sought clarity from Prime Minister Mark Phillips about whether the current administration has abandoned the program to provide electricity to the village of Paramakatoy in Region 8, Pataro Siparuni.
I'm advised, Mr. Speaker, that plan was changed 2 years ago. Bearing in mind we only assumed office on the 2nd of August. But this plan was changed 2 years ago by the government at that time and the IDB.
That was the Prime Minister's response to the question posed by David Patterson. Patterson is, however, contending that the Honourable Prime Minister is not being entirely honest in the answer he provided.
He's claiming that we abandoned it 2 years ago, and that's not true because I was a minister. And I said to him that I definitely did not agree with him.
The details of the project suggest that approximately 2 years ago, a $2.2 million deal was inked between the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, and Guyana. The project saw the construction of a 150-kilowatt hydropower plant on the bank of the Chiang River in Region 8, the construction of a 13.8 kilovolt transmission network, as well as a 120-volt distribution network throughout the village. Patterson told this newscast that even though the PPPC administration during its tenure prior to 2015 had tendered this project twice, it was rejected based on a study which showed that it was not feasible. Patterson further disclosed to Nightly News that when the APNU AFC took over the reins of government, the project was redesigned and resubmitted for approval, which was granted, since it included the transmission of electricity to Paramakatoy village from Keto, which is about 10 kilometers away and has a much larger residential capacity, thereby rendering the project more feasible.
Sir, I'd like to tell the Honourable Prime Minister he's advised incorrectly, and I provide you the information, sir.
The question, Honourable Member.
That was a question, sir. It was a statement. He was incorrectly advised, but I wouldn't go there.
During the consideration of the 2021 estimates of expenditure, it was also revealed that $15 million is expected to be utilized to develop electrical infrastructure in St. Cuthbert's Mission, while some $13 million was spent to purchase a new generator set for Madia, $15 million for one in Port Kaituma, and $8 million for one in Karasibai village. Port Kaituma, as well as Matthews Ridge in Region 1, endured constant and prolonged power outages over a course of at least 2 months in 2020. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.